This is the January 2025 fleet update. All the motorized kayaks, some of the most advanced kayaks on the market. We've got a 12-foot John boat and a 10-foot pontoon boat. Some things this year are gonna go. We're gonna get some new things. We're gonna restart some stuff, and maybe even some brand new tiny boats are gonna hit the market and we're gonna play with them. So I just wanted to give a fleet update, go through all of them because they all have their own purposes. They all have their own things that I really enjoy. Some have LiveScope, some have spot locks, some are great flats boats, some are better bottom fishing boats. So today we are going to run through all of the boats that I have currently. We have the Pond Prowler, like I said, the 12-foot Sundolphin American 12, and then 3 Autopilot kayaks. Those are so awesome. So much time, effort, and money has gone into each and every single one of those. So stay tuned for that. And the builds for every single vessel you see here. The entire build list and part list, the entire build list and part list, and everything for my main, most technologically advanced kayak. All will be linked in the description so you can replicate all of this. So first, let's start with the Pond Prowler 12. This is not the first tiny boat I ever got. I started with the West Marine 9.4 foot water tender, and it was basically a super tiny John boat, less than 10 foot John boat. We tried it out and I ended up selling it and getting this. Well, actually I had them both at the same time, but then I fell in love with this, got rid of the water tender, which I regret. I think this year we need to do a water tender build and figure out something super cool to do with it. Anyway, this is the Pond Prowler, technically 2, which is I think the 2019 model, but it is the Pond Prowler 10. It's the 10 foot with the 2 people capacity with 2 seats on it. So here's some of the upgrades I've got. I've got full tours on everything, so we're just gonna brush through it real quick, plus everything will be linked in the description. But we've got the EVA Amazon foam, and I apologize, all these boats are really dirty. We don't have running water here. This year we will be moving to a completely new place with all the running water we need to clean all these and do even more builds, but excuse the dirtiness. We've got the Amazon EVA foam. I actually do sell templates for this boat, and I've been selling them actually pretty decently. So that way when you get the EVA sheets, I've already got pre-cut templates that you just have to trace around when you get your foam, which is super cool. But those are from Amazon, one of the cheapest, best, coolest mods that you could possibly do to any of these tiny boats. As you can see, we've got some on the John boat as well. But that EVA foam makes this thing look so much cooler. We also have some handles installed. I think they're about $3 a piece, but that makes the maneuverability of this boat much better. That way, you know, you don't have to try to grab under here, which is super slick. It's where the drain plugs for the 2 pontoons are anyway. You have handles in the rear, but not back here, so that really helps with it. Plus, we've got standard Walmart, I think maybe even Amazon. It's just interlocking cheap foam gym mat. It's a gym mat foam that you can get for like 20-30 bucks. I only used about 4 squares, cut to size, and it makes this thing feel more stable. It's obviously a lot easier on the feet and just feels and looks a lot better. So you can see back here, we've got more foam. We've got upgraded seats. I do not know if they make these seats anymore. So the ones that I have listed in Amazon below are actually different kinds, but I also have bags right here. This is my documentation. These are waterproof bags, and sometimes I even keep the nav lights in there. We also have it's actually Velcroed, so I can pull it off if I wanted to, but we have a cup holder, place for lures, and just place for keys, wallet. That's the thing with this boat. It's so small that it's hard to find ample storage for it. So either you bring your own little dry box, or you just use this little thing right here, because it is a small boat. We also have a paddle holder on the side, but my favorite feature is this bimini top. Now the John boat actually also has a bimini top, except it's sitting back right there. I took it off because, well, we don't really need a bimini top, but I figured I'd put one on the boat to kind of show you we do have bimini tops, which is super cool. So this thing is such a lifesaver during the summer. Even on this boat, they both got them, and I absolutely love it. They're from Kimimoto. They're the 2-bow size. They sold out of them, but the 3-bow size works. I have tutorials on how to make them fit all of these tiny boats, so you can go check those out, and I will link some of the ones that I recommend in the description below. But this exact model, they sold out of a while ago. Also, this boat does come with 2 rod holders on the bow from the factory, so I went ahead and, since you can't really reach around each other very well in this boat, like I can climb around my wife and friends in this one, no problem, but you know, there's nowhere really to go here. So I did get some clamp-on rod holders, and these things have been absolute tanks. These have been great. You really do need rod holders back here, but I don't like drilling unless I absolutely have to, so I opted for the clamp-on ones, and they have done really good. They adjust up and down, left and right, so they're multi-way adjusting, and you can even take them off, take them to the pier with you, take them wherever you want. But this is the, ooh, about tripped over that. This is the Pond Prowler 10 build. Absolutely love this thing. The first tiny boat that made me fall in love with tiny boats, and I think it's actually my wife's favorite boat. All right, we got the Sundolphin American 12. This thing is pretty sweet. This is honestly, I think one of those kayaks is actually my favorite boat right now, but this is probably my second favorite. It has so much more room compared to the Prowler. Although not as stable, it is a ton of fun, and both of these boats are powered by this same motor. We have the 46-pound thrust, a saltwater edition Newport Vessels motor, and we really like it. It's all we need, go 3-4 miles an hour depending on the wind and current. As far as fish finders, I did have a Garmin Striker 4, just the little fish finder for both these boats, but I broke the transducer, so right now they're both raw dogging it. No fish finders, no graphs for either of these boats as of right now, but I do have a rudder right there to help with maneuverability. But this boat is really cool. I went ahead and installed my own folding fleets. We've got 2 on the stern, 2 on the bow. We've got it covered in this Amazon kind of fake wood EVA foam. That has made a huge difference because in the summer it gets really, really hot, and this material likes to stain, as you can see, and this stuff cleans really well. So it's been a real lifesaver. Makes it look really, really cool. I did not add rod holders because it does have 4, or I can just lay them kind of along the gunnels here. So it wasn't too big of a deal. As you can see, we have the hardware for the bimini tops. We got a fish ruler, which is the best like $15 I've ever spent. It looks so good. But the main thing with this boat is the flooring. This is the Tiny Boat Nation aluminum John Boat decking kit with the HydroTurf. They gave this to me to install on the boat and make some content with. I absolutely love it. You're technically supposed to rivet it down, but I actually just attached a bunch of foam to it so it's all leveled out, and I didn't actually have to drill into my boat. This is not attached. It all is removable, but it's heavy enough, and down there when you're trailering it below the benches that the wind doesn't catch it, so it's not going to fly up on you. But this has been an absolute game changer when it comes to this boat. My biggest complaint was that the floor sucked. It was ribby, and your feet would sink in if you stood on one with too much pressure on your heel, and this just makes the whole boat feel a lot more stable, feel a lot more high quality, and of course it just flat out looks good. So that's pretty much it for this boat. I have all sorts of boating accessories that I bring with me, including the emergency supplies like an emergency paddle, a bilge pump, a floating net, and I actually have my navigation lights in there, and of course an anchor. So I do have all sorts of stuff that go in these boats, including dry storage, but these are just the bare bones boats. So I like this boat because it's more stable and it has seats. So it's really good for bottom fishing if you're near a bridge, and it's just a lot more fun. It's not as good for standing up and casting, even though it's more stable, you're a lot more tight. If you have one person in this boat, oh dude, this thing is so sick. You got that whole deck up there and it's super stable. But this one I like to take on the flats in shallow water. It's less comfortable because it doesn't have seats, but what I do is I kind of find a good point to drift. I stand on the seats so I can look down into the clear water of the bay and sight fish for redfish and trout. So I like to be able to stand up and have higher visibility in this boat. So this boat I like for shallow water. That boat I like better for deeper water. Now the kayaks, man, these things are my pride and joy. I have an entire kayak charter, and this is what we use. In fact, we've got fully booked all day charter coming up the first day of next week. Super excited about it. But I'm going to get a separate shot of the motors, but they all run the 45-pound thrust Minn Kota iPilot motors, and they're all controlled with remotes. In fact, you know what? Let me go get a remote right now. Okay, so the motors don't fit on the kayaks when you trailer them, and you're not supposed to trailer them with the motors anyway. But here is the remote. As you can see, this is exactly how you drive the kayak. So this is left, right, speed up, speed down. This thing will hit 4 to 5 miles an hour. These things are absolute tanks. You've got spot lock, which is super, super cool. That means if you hit this button, the motor will know exactly where you hit it. It'll turn, adjust speed, adjust direction, adjust thrust. So that way it keeps you completely anchored, but virtually. If you don't know what spot lock is, it is an absolute game changer and the #1 reason these kayaks even exist on the charter. If you didn't have spot lock for bridge fishing for 8 hours, you know, on an all-day charter, it would be hard to paddle or pedal. I don't like paddling. I don't like pedaling, even though they do have paddles. They have emergency paddles. I'd rather go 4 or 5 miles an hour, and when I want to stop on a hole, I just press one button, and I don't have to worry about positioning anymore. So that is what's so unique about these, is that they are motor powered with spot lock. They even have a take me home feature. They have cruise control. They have true north. So that way, if you hit north and you point, let's say you want to point right at my truck, but it's 2 miles away, we'll just point your bow right at it, hit north, and it'll take into consideration all the wind, tide, current, boat wake, and so will spot lock. So literally nothing will take you off track. They are super, super fancy. I mean, from the factory, brand new, these things cost $4,500 a piece, not including any mods or even a $200 lithium battery. So these are the real freaking deal, and they are tiny boats, absolutely. If they weren't tiny boats, I wouldn't even include these on the channel, but these really are tiny boats because I can stand up, perfectly stable. I can even stand on the very edge, just like the Prowler, go 4 miles an hour and cast my little heart off and cast my little heart out and just keep catching fish. So as far as my graph here, we have the 106 SV Garmin. It's the 10-inch model, if I can get the screen off of here. So we've got that here. We've got it rigged up to the GT54 down and side imaging with all the map technology. And we've also got LiveScope here. So we've got the Garmin LiveScope. This is the pull. This is how I control it. And this is the LVS 32. This is the 32 model. In my previous tour, I mentioned it was a 34. It is not, it's a 32. So this is super cool. So when we're bridge fishing for big redfish and all those big old species, when I'm getting clients on fish, I can use this LiveScope to guarantee we're always gonna have an absolute great time. So that's what's super unique about this kayak. It has a big old screen, down imaging, side imaging, live imaging, and spot lock. It's basically a bass boat in a kayak format. And this is where my 140 amp hour lithium battery goes. So I can literally go for almost a whole month, multiple trips a week, and not even really have to change the battery, which is super cool. And of course, I've got a net here. I've got the Old Town seat. We've got the it's the Yak Attack Black Pack Pro box, but if you open it up, it's got the power center installed inside of it. I've got a full tour on this whole setup here. So this button turns on the graph, this turns on the black box, this turns on the interior lights, and this turns on the navigation lights. So that way you can fish all night long with the navigation lights up here at the red and greens, which is super, super cool. You've got dry storage over here. Right there, kill switch for the motor, and these are not pedals. These actually control the rudder. So that way, if you want to put it on cruise control for 1.5 miles an hour, you can sit down, cruise, use your feet to steer left and right. So that way you can power fish by constantly casting and not ever have to take your hands off of the reel to adjust course, which is super cool. And then here is the oversized XL rudder that you deploy with a lever up there. But these kayaks are truly, truly my favorite kayaks on planet Earth. They make 14-foot models, but I have the 12-foot models, and I absolutely love them. We've got 3 here. They're all the identical kayaks, except this has more tech on it. This has a different color, black pack box with no electronics in it. Here is a picture of the shot of the dry storage. As you can see, this one's the same, except we do not have LiveScope on any of the other ones. I'm not Bill Gates, folks, but this is the Garmin 73. So this is the 7-inch model, which is also, which is also hooked up to a GT54 for down and side imaging with clear view and all that fun stuff. So this is honestly probably a better size for the kayak, but I like my little Navarre kayak table right there with the bigger screen on it as well. Depends on what I'm going for. Sometimes I don't want the table, I want the open space, so I'll swap it out. But yeah, that is pretty much it for the kayaks. This one up here is bare bones. They all have fish grips and pliers and all that stuff. But this is just the exact same thing, except we don't have any black Yak Attack Black Pack Pro boxes. We just have these standard stuff here, and they all have emergency paddles, of course. But that is pretty much it, folks. That is the fleet tour. 3 Old Town Sportman Autopilot 120s. We've got 1 Sundolphin American 12, and we've got 1 Pond Prowler 10. This is honestly my dream fleet for right now. I wish I still had the water tender, but honestly, I'm out of places to store more boats. So we are going to be making some adjustments throughout the year. Don't worry, nothing's going anywhere as of now. We've still got a lot of fun stuff to do with all of these, especially those. Those guys are the newest to the fleet. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. Absolutely love these boats. And I just wanted to document the fleet as of January 2025. If you'd like to know any modifications on any of these, I will link everything in the description below. All of these boats have super in-depth tours if you'd like to see those as well. And of course, if you'd like to see me fish any of these boats, well, I've got even more content on all of that. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'm excited for this year. I'm excited for the changes, the more upgrades, and I'm excited for swapping different things out for different boats and just having fun with it. Anyway, tight lines and God bless.